Hello Steelers, and welcome to this game of Sharp Practice, in which the Prussians are going to be fighting against the French in a defence in depth, which is one of the scenarios from the book, just one of the basic ones, just slightly different to the normal meet and greet kind of fight. In the Prussians have to take a French primary deployment zone, which is right back here. The French also have a secondary deployment zone as well, which doesn't count towards victory. The lists I'm using are based pretty roughly on Joe McGuinn's article in the Lardies magazine from 2020, where he did a full list of the 100 Days campaign for Sharp Practice. So that's well worth checking out if you're interested in this particular period, which I am, of course. I've basically just lifted those from his lists, and I just thought I'd like to use some Prussians, see how they go, and also just use some cavalry as well and see how that goes. Well, that's enough from me. I hope you enjoy the game. It looks like it's going to be a good one. This is a game that myself and a friend played the night before, and this it turned out to be a Prussian victory, so let's see if they can do the same again in this one. Okay, here we have our two forces, and as I said, there's about 45 points worth of figures here. So we've got the French, they've got some veteran line infantry, and they are then protected by three groups of voltigeurs, each of 6. And we've got 2 leaders in both of these. We've also got over here, we've got the Prussian Landwehr, so 4 groups of Prussian Landwehr. They also have 3 groups of skirmishers out front, and again 4 leaders between the 2 of them. The Prussians also have these Uhlans as well here, so they've got 2 groups of 8 of those and 1 leader for those as well. I haven't given them any other support points because I'm still trying to learn how to play Sharp Practice, and I will make mistakes. If you're watching this and you're a fan of Sharp Practice, you'll see plenty of mistakes, I'm sure. So what I'm trying to do is just try to add things as we go along. So in this case, we're trying out cavalry because I've not used those before, or apart from in the game we had yesterday. So that's really why I put the Uhlans in there, along with the Prussians here. I also just wanted to get some Prussians on the table as well at some point. So that's the forces. Prussians attacking, French defending. Let's have a look at the table and see what they're fighting over. So this is our table from the French end, and as I say, this is a defence in depth. So the French were allowed to put out 2 deployment markers. This is their primary one, and then they have a secondary one here further forward of the village itself. If the Prussians capture this, game over. Automatically they will win. So it's right down the centre of the village. The Prussians are coming in from this end, so it's slightly open. There's a couple of funnels for them to come down here for the cavalry in particular, because this stuff is hard going. They may be able to get into the fields with the cavalry if they jump over these fences, but their cavalry also might pull up as well. They have 2 deployment zones, which are these 2 here right on the very end. They can choose to come in from either of those, but they do have to get all the way down that table, as I say, and as soon as they capture that primary deployment zone for the French, then it is game over for them. I've already done the force morale rolls. The French have got 11 against the Prussians 9. Yesterday we had equal. I think they were both on 9 before. And then obviously, of course, we've got the cards over here. So what I'm going to do is, as with most of my games of Sharp Practice, I'm not going to show you every single card pull, but what I will do is I'll show you some, and then I'll move things about, and I'll update you as things happen, and then as we get into combat. So let's just have a look at least see what the first card is. These have been shuffled, so straight away, well, red flag, so that's for the Prussians. Second card is the French leader 3. Now, if I remember correctly, I'm just going to check my list for the French leader 3. That is our level 2 leader for the voltigeurs. So he is their commanding officer. So they could possibly get on the table at this point, and I think they might do. So I'll get them set up, and we'll go from there. So the French have actually decided only to bring on 2 of their voltigeur groups. So that's 2 groups of 6, and they've put them at the very end of this little field here full of sheep, and they are now protecting the entranceway to the village itself. So they've got a second group under their sergeant, I think he is, that they can bring on later on, but they just decided to split this group up into 2 different groups for the time being. So with those Voltigeurs coming out, we'll check what our next one is. Leader 5. Okay, so that is the Prussian Uhlans. So they could deploy, and I think they're going to, because they really need to get across this table quickly before the French manage to get any of their units out, so they can strike while the iron is hot. One of the lessons we learned yesterday was that cavalry are very difficult to manoeuvre when they're in formation. So I brought the 2 groups on as groups, and these are now facing down that road. You can see straight down the centre there. They are commanded by a level 2 leader, and they can also deploy up to 18 inches away from a deployment zone, and the one they deployed from is there, so they are about 18 inches or so away from there. Now you also choose as well how fast you want cavalry to move when they come on the table, so they can walk, canter or gallop, going from slowest to fastest in that respect. And again, we realise that once you're galloping it's quite hard to slow down, so these have come on at the walk, which means they will only move 2d6, but they can move in any direction, and they can use a d6 if they wanted to completely change direction. They can also wheel if they're in formation as well. But what they want to do really is probably get into a good position, and as I say, they're facing down that road, so they want to be able to manoeuvre and basically charge down that road as quick as they can to try and get that deployment zone. Well, let's see if the French can stop them. Then next up we have our French leader, number 4, which is our level 3 French leader. That's the guy at the back there. He has only brought on 3 of his groups, and they are basically clustered around that primary deployment zone here in the, you can see it here in the village itself, because this is what they have to protect. So he's basically got these out and just got them there. He's also within command range of them as well, so they can at least be activated by him quite easily at this point as well. So far the French have brought everything on, apart from 1 group of Voltigeurs and also 1 group of line infantry as well. So this is kind of how it's looking at the moment. The French are starting to line the barricades, whilst the Prussians are inching forward with their Uhlans, not hussars. Okay, I've just pulled the tiffin card there. You can see what's happened so far. We've had 2 red cards come out, got a tiffin card. We also had, since the French leader 4 came out, leader 1 and leader 1 of both the Prussians and the French came out. They were the skirmish leaders, but they were the level 1 leaders of the skirmishers, so they can't actually deploy until their boss deploys anyway. Well, the French one could, but he decided not to. I'm going to keep his powder dry until I see what the Prussians actually do and where they come. I want to kind of hold something back for now. That's the plan. And then obviously the Prussians couldn't anyway. End of the turn, all the Prussians can do is play these 2 cards, but they've got nothing they can play with because everything on the table at the moment has activated. So we start all over again. So I'm just going to give these a quick shuffle, and we'll start from the beginning and draw our next card, see what we get. But the French are already starting to get into that position, ready for defence at least. Let's see what we get. We are tiffin. So that actually ends the turn. Fortunately for everybody, nothing has happened, so everybody is reloaded. There is no burning buildings that can collapse. There is no everybody, yeah, so everyone's reloaded. There is nobody who's broken, so we'll just ignore that, chuck that back into there, just quickly shuffle it up again, and we'll just see what happens. I'll see if we draw the tiffin card again or not. That's always better later on in the game than early on. But here we go. Leader 2 is the Prussian level 1 leader of the Landwehr. Sorry, yes, the Landwehr himself. So he can't deploy because he is still off table, so he can't do anything anyway. So our next one is a blue flag for the French, and then a red flag for the Prussians. Then we have the Prussian leader 3. Now this is the level 2 leader of the skirmishers, so this is their commanding officer. So I think he's going to come on and bring on the skirmishers. Again, they want to get down that table as quick as possible, really. Okay, the Landwehr skirmishers have arrived. So I decided to bring all 3 on the table at once because they have quite low levels of command. So I want them in a formation, a skirmish formation of 3 groups together like that, just so that the commander can actually command all of them for one initiative. Now unfortunately the French skirmishers are facing them over here, but they are just over 24 inches away, so neither of them can fire at one another at this point, but at least it's got the first big group of Prussians on the table apart from the cavalry. So they're going to be trying to push down through these fields and hopefully take the village in the flank if they can. Okay, I've just drawn 3 command cards in sequence, red and 2 blues. So if you draw 3 command cards in sequence like that, no matter the colour, there's a random event. This affects the last unit that was activated, depending if they're moving or firing. In this case it was the Prussian Landwehr, and they were deployed, so they are moving. So we roll 2 dice, check on the moving random events table and see what happens to them. So we've got 5. Spitting Feathers. The group or formation conducts all movements with -1 pip per dice until they can quench their thirst with a suitable liquid. It says ignore if you have a water bowser with your force. Well, they don't, so there is no water sources, so they're going to be suffering -1 movement each turn. But they are skirmishers, so they do get an extra d6 movement if they want to use that. But unfortunately for them, they'll be taking one pip off every bit of movement they do. Right, well the Prussians have brought on their main force with the Landwehr here. This is under leader 4, this nice chap here. They've also got their second in command as well attached to the group behind. They've come on in formation of an attack column, simply because it's a lot easier to move the Landwehr in this situation as it is, but they only deploy up to 6 inches from their deployment zone, so they're still quite close at the back end, and they are covered at the front by these skirmishers here. Okay, the Prussians have just played 4 cards for a bonus move for their leader, for the Uhlans leader, and what he's done is he's got them to walk forward just using 2 dice and brought them, both groups, up to the road ready to charge down it. So I want to basically get them up round here, round to the corner, and then they can pile down that road. They can gallop down there at some point. As I say, they just walked, so they can. They're only using 2 dice, and they've just moved forward this far here. So if their card comes up again, they will get a second move, because this was a bonus move because they played 4 command cards. But I just wanted to do that in case the deck runs out before the tiff. Well, before I want to do it before the tiffing card appears. That was the idea. And there you go, as luck would have it, I've just pulled their leader 5 card, so they do actually get a second go, because the first one was a bonus. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to again try to get them a little bit further round that road. I've actually just had a bit of a rethink about this, and I've pulled them back instead, so I've kind of wasted one of their moves, but never mind. The reason for that is because I realise that they're actually within range of the Voltigeurs over there, and I don't want to charge cavalry into what are basically fresh infantry at the bottom of the hill. They're silly. I've pulled them back, and I'm going to hold them back until I can get the Landwehr in to do some damage on the infantry, and then hopefully use these as the finishing blow. I'm still learning how to use the cavalry in sharp practice, and I should remember from my other Napoleonic games, you always hold them back, don't hit them hard first. So that's what I've done. A slight waste of using all those 4 cards, but I'm sure the tiffing card will come up at some point anytime soon anyway. Okay, even though the cavalry actually moved back, they are still just within long range of the French Voltigeurs, all of them. So they're going to fire their rounds. So we've got 6 for each group. So this is 12 dice in total. This is a bonus, by the way, because I'm using 4 cards for the French here that they'd collected. There's only 2 cards left to pull, and I didn't want it to be the tiffing card and lose those 4 cards. So they're using this as a bonus to activate the leader of the Voltigeurs. So he's firing with, so far, 12 dice. However, he's directing fire, so he's using one of his activations to activate the unit, and then an extra activation to add another dice into it. They can't spend anything else, so we've got 13 dice. I'm looking for some. Firing at long range, that's a 6 to hit. However, these are skirmishers firing at long range, so that becomes a 5 and 6 to hit. It's also their first fire as well, and they get that first fire bonus, so that becomes a 4, 5, 6 to hit. So we'll see what happens. 50% chance of hitting these. Their leader is also in that group as well anyway. So let's just see. Wow, that looks like a lot of 5s and 6s at least. Yes, there's a lot. So that's 3 misses. So by my reckoning, that's going to be 10 hits. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 10 hits. All on that single group. So now these are in the open. So these are taking shock on 3 and above, or they're killing on a 6 as well. So let's see how many of those transfer into kills. And not as good this time, but that's a lot of shock. So that is 2, 4, 6, 8 shock. Now there's 9 men in that group, so that they are almost being pushed back, but just not yet. So I'm just going to put this shock on while I remember. So they don't get pushed back just yet, but any more shock they will be, and then that'll be a bad things happen. But at least they survived. The other thing with the Uhlans is they have in hand, so if they retire from the enemy and also reduce shock, they actually reduce double the shock. So I think they're going to be doing that next turn to try and get away from that fire. Well, after not a great glorious start for the Prussians, what they've done is, I've just pulled a tiffin card for this turn. All that's happened is they managed to pull back that group of cavalry. As they did, they reduced shock, and as I say, he reduced double shock. He's a level 1 leader, so he took 2 shock off for that. He's going to have to sit there really and just reduce their shock for the next couple of turns. That's their plan. Meanwhile, over here, the skirmishers and the Landwehr themselves were able to move slightly further forward. So all we've had at the moment, and also over here as well, I forgot to mention that these Voltigeurs were firing uncontrolled. Their card came up again, so they couldn't fire at anything, so all he did was try to bring them back under control, and he did that. So they are now under control. They are loaded and ready to fire again should they need to. Alright, the Prussians have moved their Landwehr forward. So over here, they start to wheel and they're going to try to get down this road again, same as the Uhlans. The Uhlans have also reduced shock. This is what's happened this turn. Then they play 3 cards to activate the leader of the skirmisher to get them in front of the Landwehr themselves. There's a bit of a screen. And now the French have just played 3 cards as well, 3 command cards, because they want to activate their leader here with the Voltigeurs, who is going to fire at the groups of the formation of the skirmishers, Landwehr skirmishers. So let's just see what happens. They're hitting on 5s and 6s. He's directing fire. This is uncontrolled, so he'll have to bring them back under control next turn. And so we say we're hitting on 5s and 6s, so that's not a great many. That's only 3 hits, so that's 1 hit on each of those groups. So let's just work our way through. They are also in light cover simply because there's a couple of fences between them, so I'm going to give them light cover for that. So light cover for shooting them, as I say, it's 1 hit on each of those groups. So starting at the top of the screen and working down. In light cover, a 6 is a kill, 4, 5 is shock. So the first one is nothing, a 1. Second one with the leader in it is a 2, that's nothing as well. And the final one with the level 1 leader in it is a 2. So no effects, but they have started to bring fire against those skirmishers that they're moving in. Alright, next turn has started, and the French level 2 of the skirmishers is back in action, so he is getting his men again to fire at those Prussian skirmishers at the front. He's directing fire as well, so let's see, we're hitting on 5s and 6s. That's a lot better than it was last time, so let's just get rid of those misses first of all. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits, so that's going to be 2 hits on each of these groups. So we've got 2 there, 2 there, and then we've got 1 left over. So I'm going to place it on the central one simply because they are in the centre and they're taking the hits. Again, light cover, so we start with these ones. 6 is the kills, 4, 5 is shock. So first group is 3 and a 1, so that's nothing for them. Then the next one with their overall leader, same again, 6 is the kills, 4, 5 shock. So that is 1 shock and nothing else, so I'll just put that shock on there as I remember. So that's there, that's for them. And then the final 2 hits, same again, 4 and a 2, and that is another shock on them as well. So they are slowly getting shock. This time they are firing uncontrolled still, so that they are just blasting away at this point. Okay, our Prussian attack is beginning in earnest. I've just pulled a tiffin card. We've done a little bit of shifting about with the French, so these formed up into a formation, a line formation. They are now firing at the front group, or the front formation of the Prussians, because the Prussians have split into two formations here. So we've got the front one now pushing down that road. They're just at long range, so the French are hitting on 5s and 6s, and not much else has happened in this turn. So this is going to be uncontrolled fire, 5s and 6s, because this is first fire. So let's see how many of those are hits, and that is, oh, that's only 5 hits, but they are at long range. So and obviously they are reloading with their second action. So that's going to be 3 hits on the front group, 2 hits on the rear group. So they are in the open, 6 of the kills, 3 plus shock. Let's have a look. So we've got 1 shock on the rear group. We'll just stick that down there so we know. And then 3 hits on that front group. And this is the one with their leader in it. So let's see what happens there. So we have got a kill and also 2 shock as well. So I'll put that 2 shock on. And then we've also got a kill. So we'll test to see if it's the leader. No, it isn't. So it's just one of the Landwehr themselves. So first casualty goes to the Prussians. Alright, first thing in this turn is the French leader one of the Voltigeurs has appeared, and they've popped up in the cornfields, and they are now firing at the Prussians here at close range. It's their first shot. They are also firing at a column as well, so that gives them another +1, so it's +2. They're hitting on a 4 out of 6 anyway, so +2 basically means 1 is a miss. They've got 6 shots. Let's see what they get. That's 1 miss. So all the rest of hits, so that's 5 hits on those Prussians. So again, 3 are going to go on the front, 2 on the rear group. So the rear group, 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock. So we've got 5 and a 1, so that's 1 shock on them. They really need to just grind them out, and that was a good ambush for from the French there. And then 3 hits on the front. Let's see what we get there. So that's 3 shocks, so 3 and 2 5s, so that takes them up to 5. No casualties, but they are grinding them down with that shock, and that's really what they need, because that's going to start slowing them up as well. Okay, on the tiffin card, both sides have got a single card left, so they're activating, the French are activating the Voltigeurs here to fire again at this group, which has changed formation. That's what they did in their turn. And then the Skirmishers, they've moved forward, and then they're going to fire at the Voltigeurs using their card. I've already moved them forward because I know I'm not firing at them, so I'll just put them already up here. So we've got the Voltigeurs, they're firing first of all. They are hitting on 5s and 6s because of the range. And we've got not a great many hits in there, but some. What they're trying to do really is grind this unit down as much as possible. So that's 4 hits, 2 on each, 2 on that one, 2 on this one. And our leader is attached to this group here, just so I remember. So, first one over here, these are in the open, so 6 is a kill, 3 plus shock. So that's just 1 shock on this group. But that is slowly creeping up. The other thing that happened as well is the Uhlans have got rid of all their shock as well, so at least they are in the clear now. And then on this second group here, 2 4s, so that's 2 more shocks, so that takes them now up to 4. There we are, there's the 4 there. Right, now we've got the Prussian skirmishers, they're firing at the Voltigeurs, and they're firing at them in long range, but it's their first fire, so they're hitting on 4 5s and 6s, but the Voltigeurs are in light cover. None of these are controlled fires, by the way, so they are just going to continue firing unless they can get back under control. So let's see, we're looking at, we said 4 5s and 6s, so let's get rid of everything that's missed. This is the first time that these have fired, I think. Fairly sure it is. If it isn't, doesn't really matter. Anyway, well, here we are, 3 6 8 hits, so that's 4 hits on each of these groups. I'm just going to make sure that this guy is actually attached, their leader is attached to that group there. So we'll do the group that the leader is attached to. So 6 is a kill this time, 4 5 is shot, the Voltigeurs. Okay, so that's 2 kills and 1 shock, so I'm going to put that shock straight on first of all. Now let's see if it's on that leader. See if he's hit. One or two he is. Two, yes, he is one of the ones that's killed or hit. So I'll take one of them off anyway. And what happens to him? One, he's killed outright. Two or three, he's knocked out. 4, 5, 6, he is wounded. One, he's killed outright. So we've got to do a bad things happen roll for that straight away. Well, I'll do that in a second once I've finished off the rest of the hits. And so the 4 are the hits on the other group. 6 is the kills, as we said, and 4, 5 is shock. So that's 2 shock and another kill. Oof, they've taken that pretty badly, haven't they? So the Prussian skirmishers are doing well for themselves, having taken out a leader and a couple of other Voltigeurs as well. So I've got to roll that bad things happen as well now. So we've got a level 2 leader killed. What do we got? A 3 on a level 2 leader killed is 1 point off the French force morale, so that drops them down to 10. They're still okay at the moment, but that's still pretty bad. Okay, the French on the next turn have released their leader number 2. So he's this guy with the line infantry. They just appeared next to that the deployment zone here. They are firing down the road into the Prussians here, the Landwehr. See if we can do some damage on them. 8 from the firing. They are at, let me just check actually, I can't remember what they're actually, oh, they're just in close range. So that's 4, 5, 6 to hit, first fire plus 1, so 3 plus to hit for them. So that's quite a good few hits really. That's 5 hits spread between the 2. 3 are going to go on this one here because that is the closest, and then 2 on those ones there. So first of all, the 2 hits there in the open. 6 is a kill, 3 plus is shock. So that's just 1 shock on them, so that takes them up to 5. That's not enough to push that unit back yet, or that group anyway. And then 3 hits on here, and this is the one with the leader in it. So let's just see what happens here. So we've got 5 and nothing else, so that's just 1 extra shock on there, so that takes them up to 7. There's 8 men in that unit, so again they are okay at the moment. They're just hanging on with grim life. Okay, we just ended the turn. Using the cards, the Prussians have started moving their cavalry down the flank, but they've also, during that turn, they've also pushed forward these Landwehr here. We're now playing the cards. The French are opening fire with their skirmishers at the Landwehr as they're coming in, so they're rolling to hit on 4 plus because they're close range. So let's just see. Ooh, that's 3 hits. So 2 on the front, 1 on the rear group. So the rear group, they are in light cover because they're in the cornfields. So 4, 5 is shock, but that's a 2, and 6 is a kill. And on the front, 5, so that is 1 shock on the front group. Alright, next turn, and we've got the Landwehr captain has basically charged his men forward. They are about to make contact with the Voltigeurs, but they are going to try to evade. They get a free bonus move to evade because they're skirmishers, so we roll 2d6, see where they end up. And they have fallen back 6 inches, so they basically fall back to the back of this field here. So I'll just get those set up. So they've at least not taken any hits because they might not have survived that fisticuffs if that was the case. Okay, we just had a tiffin card. I just want to show you what's going on at the moment. So we've got old Marshal Vorwärts is pushing his men again. They've got into this field and they're right up against the Voltigeurs again. They will probably evade anyway, unless they will get contacted. Probably going to try and basically push into and attack the unit in the orchard if they get the cards. We've got the French on the road, still holding. The second unit of second formation of Landwehr have kind of stopped because they are taking so much shock at the moment, and their leader is only a level 1, so it's difficult for him to remove shock at this point. They are faced off by the Voltigeurs there, and as I said, the French on the road. We've also got the Prussian skirmishers over here. They're just hanging about at the back of the field at the moment, not doing a great deal. The French in the village are still in line, waiting to lay down a volley. And finally, right over here, we got the Uhlans, and they are making a move on the Prussian right flank to try and get down this open area here, to probably to come in and try and get into the French here as well. So currently, although the French have kind of half stopped the Prussian advance, it's still everything to play for at this point. Well, fortunately for the Prussians, Marshal Vorwärts cards came straight out after the tiffin break. So they basically pushed forward, they smashed into that wall, they've pushed the Voltigeurs out, they evaded again, so they ran out, they're out on the road. But they hit this group of French here. I've totted up the dice. We've got 9 Prussian dice against 8 French dice. So they're killing on 5s and 6s, but they're also causing shock on 6. So let's see what happens. This could go either way really, I think, at this point. So we've got 2 kills on the French and 1 shock. So we'll just get those dice out here and we'll get the French roll in. So this could be where they might... this could go badly for the Prussians, but let's just see. They have taken exactly the same. So that's 2 kills and 1 shock. So let me put that 1 shock on each of these. 2 kills are going to be on the French infantry anyway, because they only have infantry. So let's just take those off first of all. Then at least 1 kill is going to be on the Landwehr because they are Landwehr. So it's going to be 1 hit on each actually. I get this wrong. And he's with this group. So the first group loses 1. They also take a shock as well. That's going to go on the front group because they're the ones that are fighting. Let's see if it's Marshal Vorwärts, a 1, and it is. 4, no it isn't, so it's just one of the other Landwehr as well. So that was a draw, so we fight again immediately, unless one side breaks due to shock. None of them have. So what I'll do is I'll work out the dice again and we'll come straight back in. Okay, I've tossed up the dice and the Prussians are at a slight disadvantage now. They are down to 7 dice versus 8 against the French. So the French are just on top of this one, but let's see what the dice tell us. 5s and 6s. This is the Prussian roll, so that's a kill and a shock again. This time let's see what the French get. They've got 8 dice, so they just need to kill a couple more really to push those Prussians back. Let's have a look. They've got only 2 kills actually. So this is going to be another fight again. So it's a shock and a kill on the French, so that's another Frenchman off. So it's going to be 1 from the rear. I'll put that shock on the French as well. So this grinding them down slowly, and then let's just see if that kill is on the leader. A 1. No it isn't. So another Landwehr is off, and sorry, I didn't take the 2 French off. There we go, the 2 French are off as well. So again, I've got to work out the dice, and I'll come back in a second and we'll fight a 3rd round of fisticuffs. Okay, now due to shock, they are both equal on 7, but this is going to be the last. If they draw again, this is going to be the last time that they will fight, and they will both back away 4 inches away from their opponents facing the enemy, so that will actually split them up. But let's just see anyway. So, not a single kill from the Prussians there, nothing. So the French actually only need to kill 1 Prussian, and they have won this particular fisticuffs. And they've killed 2 and caused another shock as well. So we're going to put that shock again on them, 3. So that's 2 kills, 1 on each. So we take 1 off there first of all. Let's see if it's on the leader, on the front one. A 1 it is, no it isn't. So it's another chap there. So that's hammered then. This is a defeat by 1. They are thrown back 6 inches. Stubborn troops ignore a defeat by 1 and fight again immediately. And you know what? These are stubborn, so they actually will just fight again immediately. That's again. I'm going to have to top this up and see where we are. All right, we're back in again. 7 versus 7 this time because of shock. So first of all, the Prussians. This is an epic battle. So that's 2 kills and 1 shock on the French. Let's see how many the French cause. Again, they need to cause 3 or more now. Well, actually they don't, because if they're defeated by 1, then the Prussians will fight again. So they need to kill 4 or more, actually, at this point. So the Landwehr are stubborn. So that is 1 kill and 1 shock again. So sorry, 2 kills and a shock. That is a draw, but because they fought previously, they're both going to retire 4 inches directly away from the opponents. and I'll have to check up on the shock and things, but I'll get that sorted out and see where we are straight after that. Alright, so this is the state afterwards. The Prussians have cleared the orchard and they pushed the French back. They have also fallen back themselves, unfortunately for them, but they haven't lost any more casualties. Their leader wasn't hit, so they're still relatively intact. They're going to need to dress the ranks to get those two units into one to make them a bit more useful. And the French have been forced to withdraw because they have now more shock than men in that group. 3 shock to 2 men. So that is a force morale roll. Group obliged to withdraw. Let's see what we get. A 1 is no effect. So they've just fallen back and they're just hanging around outside the inn at the moment. Alright, things are heating up on the road. We've got the skirmishers have run forward, the Prussian skirmishers. They used 3 cards to activate their leader and he's brought them into this field. They didn't fire because they just ran, basically, did 3 dice. Then the French have played 3 cards to activate the leader here. They're level 1 and he's firing at these. We need to try to break some of this morale of the Prussians. So they're firing 8 shots, hitting on 4, 5, 6. Because of the close range, so we're hit 4, so that's going to be 2 on each of those groups. So the first one without the leader in it, 6 is a kill, 3 plus is shock, so that's 1 shock on the first group there, so that's out in a second, and then 2 hits on the other group, and that is 2 shock. So that's, as I think that's taken them over their number, so we're on 9 shock for them now, and there are 8 men including the leader, so they are forced to withdraw 1 inch. The others can withdraw with them voluntarily, so it won't affect their morale, but that is a group forced to withdraw, so 4, 5, 6, and it's 1 off the Prussians' morale. So 3, no, it hasn't affected them, but they have fallen back 1 inch. Okay, so we've just pulled the Tiffin card, the very last card, almost last card, and the Prussians are spending a flag card to activate this unit because they haven't activated. They are firing at this group here, and that is all they're going to do. They're hitting on 3, 4, 5, 6 because they're close range, and it is their first fire. So let's have a look. I think it's their first fire anyway, I'm fairly sure it is. If it isn't, then remind me in comments. So that's 3 hits, all on that group. 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock. What have we got? Just 1 shock on those French. So not a great deal of firing, but they are suffering from a lot of shock themselves, so there's no wonder their firing dice are down. Okay, it's our Prussian skirmishers this time. So their level 1 is the level 2 leader is going to get everybody to fire, and then he's going to separate this unit under the command of their other second in command. So that's going to form a formation and a group. They're firing at these first of all, 4, 5, 6 to hit. And let's see how many we've got. I'm getting rid of everything that hasn't struck home. Let's see where we're at. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hits, all on that single group. 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock. So, not a single kill. You would have thought there would have been at least 1 in there. However, that has caused 2, 4, 6 shock on them. They've already got 6 on there, so 1 on there, should I say, so I'll put another 1 on, so that's 7. That's not forced them back yet, but it has severely put a hole in their day. And as I say, now we have a separate group of these ones over here. So we've got Voltigeurs over here. Now they've moved earlier into this position to fire at the Uhlans as they ride past. They're firing at this one group. 6 shots, 4 plus hits. And so that's 1, 2 hits, 3 hits on that one group. Killing on 6, 4, 5, 3 plus is shock because they're in the open. So they've just caused 1 shock on those Uhlans, no kills. Alright, we're back in here again. The Prussians are firing again at the French in the road. Let's see what they do. They're hitting on 4, 5s and 6s, and that is 5 hits, all in that group. At this point, if they get 3 shock or more, well 4 shock or more is going to make them fall back. They're shocking on 3 and above, 6s are kills. So we've got 2 kills and 1 shock. So the shock at the moment isn't enough to force them back, but they do have those 2 kills. So let me just put that shock on there. So they've got 7 shock, 2 kills. Let's see if one of those kills is on their leader. No, it isn't, so it's on 2 of the guys themselves. So that means they now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 men, 7 shock. They're okay, they're holding on. Any more shock or any more kills and they will start falling back, and that's going to be more bad things happen for the French. Right, so we've got these 2 groups or formation of skirmishers are firing. And the next turn they're firing at the French here in the road, trying to break them. So we're hitting on 4, 5, 6s, and let's get rid of everything that isn't a 4, 5 or a 6, of which there are a few. And there are 5 hits in total on these French. So again, if they kill anyone or if they cause any shock, they're going to be forcing them back. They're in the open, 6 is the kill, 3 plus shock. So look, so that's 1 kill first of all, 2 shock as well, so that takes them up to 9 shock, and they've got that 1 kill. Let's see if it's a hit on their leader, and a 1, and it is. No, it isn't. It's one of these fellas. So they are now on 2, 4, 6 men with 9 shock, so they fall back 3. That means that is a bad things happen for the French. So we roll this again. 6 is -1 point, I believe, yeah, for a group obliged to withdraw. So the French are now down again. They're down onto 9 on their force morale, and these have fallen back 3 inches. I'll set that up and see what the next card is. Okay, we've got our next group of skirmishers, the small one. They've been activated. They are firing again at the French in the road. So any shock or kills on these is going to be another force back for those guys. So let's see, 4, 5, 6s to hit first of all, and that is 3 hits. So let's see what that does to them. 6 is kills, 3 plus shock. So that's a kill and a shock, so that is going to force them back again. So let's just put that up. See if that hit is on their leader first of all. So they're now on 9 shock with 6 men in there. So 5, no it's not, so it's another of theirs. So that's now they've got 5 men in there with 9 shock, so they're falling back 4 inches. So that's a bad things happen. Let's roll again for the French. A 1, that's no effect, but they have fallen back in amongst those skirmishers. And then we've got this group of voltigeurs putting some shots up the arses of the horses as they pass. So they're hitting on 4, 5, 6s because of the range. That is 1, 2 hits, 6 is a kills, 3 plus is shock because they're in the open. Let's see, so that is just 1 shock on those horses. So a little while ago, this 2 groups formed from line into square because they've got the Uhlans coming down here causing them some hassle. So they are firing at the Uhlans as they come at them. They can only fire with 1 side of the square, so it's only 8 men firing up there. It's their first fire, so they are hitting with a 3 plus because of the range. So let's have a look. And yeah, that's 3, 6, 7 hits, all in that one group. They're in the open. 6 is kills, 3 plus is shock. Not a single kill, however, they have given them 6 shock. That's quite a lot on that. It's not enough to force them back, but that has damaged them quite badly. Well, after Marshal Vorwert's success at clearing out the orchard, he's gone in again and he's run into the French here. They've scattered the voltigeurs who've disappeared off there. They declined to fight. I've got the dice together. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 for the Prussians because they're not attacking an obstacle this time. 2 for the French because they're so badly shocked. Let's see who wins on this one, shall we? Let's hold our breath for a second. 5s and 6s. Some fisticuffs are going on here. There is no shock, but they have killed 5 men. So that has wiped those French out. See how many the French hit back? Just 1, no shock. So that's taken 1. Well, let's just see if it's old Marshal himself. 1, and it is. It is. He's hit. What's happened to him? 1, he's been killed outright. So the French have been killed, destroyed, wiped out to a man. He has also been killed. Now the French leader is going to be one of the hit. So I'm going to roll a dice and see what happens with him as well. So that's him wounded as well. So a 3 is he is wounded. No, he's knocked out, I think, until the end of the turn. That's all that happens to him. Well, all that happens to him, that's still him knocked out. And let me just 100% check that. Yes, knocked out by a minor wound. And if he's activated, he will reactivate on a 5 or 6. But old Marshall, our hero of the Vaterland, has been killed. Right, so now we've got some bad things happen. So, the French have had a group wiped out. They've also had a officer or leader injured. The Prussians have had a leader killed as well. Right, so let's work it through first of all. So first of all, the group wiped out for the French. 3 is 1 point off their force morale, and down on the 7. Then their leader being wounded, and he is a leader level 1 status leader. So need to roll high there for the Prussians. That is minus another point off, so that's dropped them down to 6. That was for those, but now we've got to see what happens with our leader for the Prussians, and he is a level 3 leader. So yes, he's a level 3 leader. So level 3 leader killed. Oh, this is not good for them. 6 minus 3 points off their force morale. So that's dropped them down to 6. So they're both equal at the moment because of that. But at least it smashed another French unit into oblivion. The Prussians seem to be on top at this point. Okay, we just had another Tiffin card, so I'm just going to give you a quick catch up as to what's actually happening, because it's probably a bit confusing at this point. We've still got the Prussian Landwehr at the back. They are still pretty heavily shocked, so they're going to take a little time for them to actually get back into the action, I think. We've also got the French Voltigeurs here at the fence. They were firing at the Prussian Uhlans as they were coming round. Come back to them in a second. We've also got our Landwehr skirmishers. At least the formation is still in that field. The other smaller group has broken off and has started making a move down the central road now. Marshal Wavre and his men, he's been killed. I did roll to see if there was a replacement leader, and he wasn't. We've got a French knocked out leader there right in front of them, so he's probably going to get captured at some point. We have a French square in the square itself, because that is being faced off by the Uhlans over here at the moment, but they managed to cause quite a lot of shock on them, so they're going to have to rally that off either by moving backwards or, well, I don't know, will they attack? Will they attack? The threat might be enough at this point, but then we've also got the French Voltigeurs here. They were scattered by that last attack by Marshal Wavre, and very finally, I've not mentioned these for a bit, but these are the remains of the units that were in the orchard. They are cowering behind the building over here. Currently, at the moment, both sides are on a force morale of 6, so it is still anything to go for at this point. I think... it's hard to say it, but I don't know. I think the Prussians might just have the edge, but it's still pretty close. If they can get those Uhlans in on that square, things may tip either way, but we'll see and carry on playing. Now the Prussians have brought forward their skirmishers here, and they are firing at the square, so they're getting a +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 4, but +1 gives them a 3 or more. They want to do as much damage as possible to these before they send in the Uhlans. So let's see, we're hitting on, we said 3s and above, so that's 2 misses, 2 hits. That's going to be spread between the two groups, so the front group to which the officer is attached. 6 is a kill, 3 plus is shock because they're in the open. So that's 1 shock first of all for the first group, so no kills. So the officer has got through that, and then 2 hits on the rear group, and that's a 5 and a 2, so that is another shock as well. So starting to work on that shock to see if they can break this square. Unfortunately for the French, they're in a bit of a tricky situation because they're faced by cavalry, but they've also got infantry now facing them as well. And their woes don't end there, because on the Tiffin card, the Prussians have got 1 card which they can use, so they're going to use that to activate this unit, and they are firing again at that square. So let's have a look. Hitting on 4 and above. That is only, actually no, 3 and above, that was a 3, so, because they're firing at a square, so that's 3 hits. So two hits on one and 1 hit on the other. Because they're equal, I'm going to roll the dice to see which it is. 1 to 3 for them, 4 to 6 for them. 1 to 3, so it's the one at the front with the officer, they've got the extra 2 hits. So let's look, 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock, so another shock on them. As I say, we want to kind of break this square a little bit, either before the cavalry go in, or otherwise, and I don't want to get into fisticuffs with them just yet. And finally, the other takes nothing, that's a 2, so no effects. So we've got our main French leader, the commander-in-chief. He's getting the square to again fire at the Uhlans because they're the biggest threat at the moment. So we're just going to fire at those. They're at short range, just so they're hitting on 4 and above. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3 hits on that first group of Uhlans, killing on 6s and 3 plus is shock. So that's just 2 shock on them. And now the Uhlans are taking more fire from these French skirmishers over here, hanging behind the fields, hitting on a 4 or above, firing at this rear group. So that's 3 hits, and then 6 kills, 3 plus. Not a single one, no effects. And then back in the square, we've got the skirmishers firing again. 3 and above, firing into the square. So we've got, oh, that's 5 hits. And let's go with 3 on the front because they're the closest, and 2 on the rear. So the 2 on the rear, 6 is the kills. Yes, that's 1 kill and no shock. And then on the front, the officer is attached to this group. So 6 is the kills. So that's a kill and a shock. So let's quickly put that shock on there. Otherwise I'll forget. There we go. And see if that kill is on their officer. A 1, and it is. Yes, it is. He's hit. What happens to him? A 6, he is wounded, but that is still a bad thing to happen for the French. So we've got to roll for that first of all, and then his actions are reduced by 1, I believe, with a 6. But let's have a look. He is a status 3 leader, wounded. A 3 is minus 1 point off the French morale. So they are now down to 5. Slowly creeping down, and that officer is wounded. Okay, we're on the tiffin card. At the end of the turn, the French have used a couple of their cards to get the Voltigeurs into the farmyard here. Let's take up position against the Uhlans, and then we've also firing with the units here in front of the square. So 3 plus are hits. So that's 6 hits, 2, 4, 6 hits. Yep, 6 are kills. So 3 on each group. We've now attached our level 1 leader to the group as well because he recovered. So we're firing first of all at the group with the head leader, the top guy. So 6 are kills, so that's 1 kill. They're in the open, so that is another 2 shocks. So that takes them up to 3 shock and a kill. See if it's on that leader or not. 1 it is. No, it isn't. So just one of the fellas. And then we've got 3 hits. Same again on here. And this also has an attached leader as well. So that's 2 kills. No shock. See if it's on the leader. 1 or 2 it is. Well, actually, I've been doing that wrong. Actually, I was supposed to roll under the number, aren't I? But because they're such close range, I'm going to let them get away with it. 4, no it isn't. So it's on 2 of the line infantry. But they're still holding their ground at this point. The fire on this square is unrelenting at this point because we've got the next skirmishers again firing at them. Let's have a look. We've got we're hitting on 3 plus because again of range, and it's a square, so that is 5 hits. So because of range, 3 are on the front group, 2 are on the rear group. So I'll do the rear group first with the level 1 leader, and that's 2 4, so that's 2 more shots. That takes them up to 3. Not enough to force them to withdraw or anything at this point. And 3 hits on the front group. So that is a 5, so that's just 1 shock on them. So they're taking it quite well at this point, but their shock is building up slowly. This is the problem with them being in square at this point. And then we've got this group of French voltigeurs again firing at the rear group of Uhlans, hitting on 4+. We've hit on 1, 2, 3, 4 hits, 6 as a kills, 3+ is shock for these. Just 2 shock on them, but it is grinding them down and it's holding them in place, and that's kind of what they want at this point. It's not so much about killing them, it's just about holding them there to stop them charging into that square in the middle of the town. Okay, on the drawing of the Tiffin card, the Prussians are activating 2 of their units. This group here firing into the square again, and then they've got 2 the formation of skirmishers that are again firing over there. So we'll do the group firing first of all from the side, so we're hitting on 3s and above. This square is really taking some damage here, so that's 5 hits. So where that extra hit goes, let's just roll to see. 1 to 3 it's the front one, 5 to 6 it's the rear one. So it's the front one, so that's the one with the Commander-in-Chief in. So let's see what we get. That's 2 more shock on them, so that takes them up to 6. They are not yet obliged to withdraw because there is 2, 4, 6, 7 men in there, 8 including the commander, and then 2 hits on the rear group. So that is a kill and a shock, so that shock takes them up to 4. That also reduces them to 50% strength as well. But let's see if it's on that commander. In fact, the one it is. No, it isn't, so it's just one of the musketeers. But then we've also got the skirmishers in the orchard firing, and they are reloading as well, so they're just going to be firing over there. They're going to be in light cover for this because they're firing through the orchard. So let's have a look. We're hitting on 3s and above because they're firing at a square at short range. Well, a great number of hits actually. It is some at least, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits, 3 on each. So the front one in light cover, 6 is a kill, 4, 5 shock this time. So we've got a kill and a shock. Let's put that shock on. That takes them up to 5. They currently have 5 men in there, but one of them has been killed. So let's just roll to see if it's their leader. No, it isn't. It's another bloke. So that is going to force them to withdraw. And then we had 3 hits on the other one. I'm going to sort out the withdrawals in a second once I've done the hits here, because this is all happening at once. So that's just a shock on those. So has that forced them to withdraw as well? I'm not sure. 7, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 men in there. 7 rifles. However, we've been forced to withdraw here. They'll withdraw 1 inch. Because they're withdrawing up to 1 inch, the other group can withdraw with them, but this is voluntarily, so that doesn't count as a bad things happen. However, the first group withdrawing does count as a bad things happen. So they are now there, so they are slowly pushing them back. It's this slow grind of fighting, shooting and shooting and shooting. So now we have to do another bad things happen roll for the French being forced to withdraw. Let's see, 4, 5, 6 is the -1, otherwise it's nothing. It's a 1, so nothing, no effect. So they're still in rude health at this point. Right, we've got the skirmishers in the little building there, firing again, once again, at that square. So look, so we're hitting on 3+. That's 4 hits, so 2 on each group. So the front group with the overall leader, 2 5s, that's 2 more shock on them, so that has now taken them to, that's 9, and they've got 2, 4, 6, 7 men, so they are forced to withdraw, and then 2 hits on the other one. Let's just see what happens to them. 2 more shock on them, so they are also forced to withdraw, so that's actually 2 groups forced to withdraw. They're both withdrawing the same amount, which is basically I think 2 inches, but they are both now on morale tests, so 4, 5, 6, and it's a -1 point. So that's -1 point, and a 2 is nothing. So they are now down to 4, so they're going to start reducing cards at the end of the turn, and they're also getting pushed back again even more so. Okay, on the Tiffin card we've got the voltigeurs are firing at the front unit of the Uhlans, hitting on 3+. and that is 4 hits. And 6 is the kills, they're in the open, 3 plus is shock. Let's have a look, 6 is the kills, 3 plus is shock, just 1 shock on them, not great. Okay, once again we've got the skirmishers firing out this square. Let's have a look, we're hitting on 3s and above, so we've got 3 hits. So again we're going to have 2 on the front because they are firing closer to them, and then 1 on the rear. So we'll do the rear first of all. 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock, so that's another shock, that's another force to withdraw because they are over their point of break at this point actually. I'll just check, but they may be about to break actually. So the other one is, I'll re-roll that, a 2 is nothing and a 2 is nothing, so no effect on them. However, these are forced to withdraw. Yes, so they're broken actually because they have at least twice the number of shock on them. So there's 3 men in there with the leader, makes 4. They've got 8 shock, so that is a withdrawal. They will run away. 2d6 plus 6 inches. So let's see how far they go. So that's 11, 13, 8, 14 inches, should I say. I apologise. Maths are bad today. That takes them off the table. They take that leader with them, so that's them routed. So this is a group routed plus a leader routed as well. He's a level 1 leader, so that's going to be 2 bad things happen rolls. So we have group breaks first of all. That's a 6, that's minus 2 points off the French morale, that's taken them down to 2. Then we also have a level 1 leader routed from the table. Right, if they roll a 5 or a 6 here, it's game over. It's that simple, because that will be 2 points, that will drop them to 0, and they will lose the game. 4, no, they are still on 1 force morale at this point, so they're just holding on with grim life. Well, now we have those Voltigeurs in the field, keeping up steady fire on the rear group. They have actually been working away on them. I did it off camera, but they've been shooting away. They've killed 2 of them. They've also caused shock on them and forced them to withdraw. Didn't cause any morale loss, but they did force them back. So we're hitting on 4 plus for these, so that's 3 hits. And 6 of the kills, anything above is 3 is shock, so that takes them to 3. So that's another withdrawal, so they're forced back another few more inches. So I'll just push them back there. I think this game is almost over its point, so it doesn't really matter. But that's a force morale roll. 4 plus minus 1 force morale. 1, no, it hasn't affected them. Okay, we've got the skirmishers by the side of the orchard firing again. I'm going to put them again in light cover because of the range and everything. So they're hitting on 3s and above, and that is a good number of hits at least this time. 2, 3, 6, 7 hits on this group. Light cover, 6 is kills, 4, 5 is shock. So we got 1, 2 kills, 1 shock, so that's them forced to withdraw anyway, I think. No, because their captain reduced shock on them when his card was drawn, so they're actually below the number of shock, but that's 2 kills. Skirmishers firing, 1 or 2, it's hit the captain. No, it hasn't, so it's 2 of the men. Does that change the shock? No, they're still 6 for 6 at this point, so they're not withdrawing just yet. They're still standing there pretty firm. And now we've got the French Voltigeurs picking away at the Uhlans over here, hitting on 5s and 6s because of the range now. That's 4 hits, pretty good that out of 6. 6 is the kills, 3 plus shock. 2 kills, no shock. And let me just check that actually. So now we've got, they've got 9 shocks, so they've actually broken. So that is them off, and I think they'll probably actually rout off table. So it's 2d6 plus 6 inches, so that's 4, 10 inches. Yes, they have. They've finally got rid of those. So that's a bad thing's happened for the Prussians. A group breaks. Let's see what we get. 6, 2 points off the Prussians' force morale, so that's taken them down to 4. So they are also on the verge of ending this game as well. Right, then we've got our skirmishers here firing again at the remains of that square. Let's have a look. We're hitting on, well, they're not in a square anymore because they're not a formation, so they're hitting on 4 and above for these, so that's 3 hits. So 3 hits on them, 6 as the kills, 3 plus is shock, so that's 3 shock. So that takes them up to 9 shock. They have 6 men in there, so that's them obliged to withdraw, but no kills, so they have withdrawn another 3 inches. So let's just see. 3 is no effect on the force morale. And then in a final hurrah, not only did this group move forward, or try to get forward, they couldn't get very far forward because they got shock, but the skirmishers ran out of the orchard, or by the side of the orchard, piled down the road and ran straight onto the primary French deployment zone, thereby capturing it and winning the game immediately. Game over, that's it. The Prussians have won. They've pushed the French out of the village and made a mockery of their defence. And that's it. That's the end of another excellent game of sharp practice. I find that now I'm getting more used to the rules, and I know I've made plenty of rules mistakes. The games are actually getting better as I'm starting to work out more what you can do with the different cards and things. But here we are, this is the end of it. We've got the Prussians in the village capturing that deployment zone. It was an immediate end to it. The remains of the square were being pushed back. This is the remains of the unit that was over in the orchard, just 2 men. We've also got the Voltigeurs here. They moved up and they were firing at the Uhlans, who were waiting their turn to charge in and get the remains of the square if they could have done, but unfortunately they'd gone round a corner, so they just couldn't charge them. And then we'd also got the Voltigeurs over here. They'd been firing at those other Uhlans who they cleared off the table, as you can see here. And then finally, very finally, we've got the remains of, well, not really remains, this is still a pretty strong unit, but this is the line, the Landwehr, who got halted very early on. And they've hardly moved. All they've been doing is trying to reduce shock. So because he's only a level 1 leader, he's only been able to take 1 shock off at a time, so very, very slow. So they didn't really have much of an impact apart from early on in the game. It was really down to the skirmishers and this other unit of Landwehr as well. Although they lost half of their men in that fight in the orchard, they were able to push on, and even when they lost Marshal Vorwärts, they were still able to push on and hold the French to account as well here. The French were in a difficult position because if they had come out of square, the Uhlans would have just charged straight into them and made a real mess of them. Even if the Uhlans hadn't won that battle, they would have made such a mess of the French that there was the infantry and the skirmishers would have been able to finish them off easy. So it was a difficult decision for the French: stay in square and take the hammer from the infantry, or go into line, or even a couple of groups and then take the hammer from the Uhlans. So the cavalry, although they didn't do a great deal, they were there as a blocking force, and that's kind of what they were supposed to be getting used for in this particular game. If it was a bit more open, they probably would have gone in for the charge. But that's it. A great game of sharp practice. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed playing it. Please do leave me a comment, a like in the down below. Say hello, and join me soon for more sharp practice in the future.